Claire had come to her friend Laura's suburban house craving ordinary peace. Sun on her skin, a book by the pool, the kind of silence that lets your breath slow and your thoughts settle. Instead, she found herself under a new kind of scrutiny. Ethan, Laura's stepson, had come home from college earlier than expected. He hovered in the doorway like a shadow at noon. Familiar but altered. The boy she remembered replaced by a man whose edges had sharpened into confidence. He was 20, he'd told her with a lopsided smile. And that number mattered in a way some things simply don't need to be said. The pool hummed with suburban normalcy. Distant kids, a dog's bark, the clink of a lawn mower. But when their eyes met across the deck, the rest of the world dimmed. There was no crass line crossed, no overt declaration. Only a look that burned brighter than the sun on her shoulders. Ethereal as it felt, the moment carried a gravity Claire couldn't ignore. She felt seen in a way she hadn't in a long time. Not by colleagues or clients, but by a young man who'd quietly watched her through years of family gatherings and holiday dinners. Seeing him now, grown and lit from some internal spark, stirred something both thrilling and profoundly dangerous. She let a small, careful smile find its way to her lips and rose from the lounger as if to retrieve a towel. Each step toward the house was both an invitation and a test of her own restraint. Ethan moved with a calm that made the air between them tense. His arrival stepped into the quiet like a chord resolving and then holding. He sat on the lounger beside her with an ease that bordered on deliberate, the casual closeness making her pulse edge up. He complimented her as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and his voice, warm and steady, seemed to settle around her like the dusk that had begun to gather on the edge of the day. They shared small talk that skimmed the surface, but the undercurrent hummed with something more. College had changed him in ways that small talk couldn't capture. He carried himself differently, with a thoughtful attention that made Claire more aware of her own gestures, the angle of her head, the tilt of her laugh. He wasn't a boy. That distinction was important to both of them and to the rules they'd grown up believing in. Still, it didn't erase the quiet electricity when their eyes would meet, the way his gaze lingered fractionally longer than etiquette allowed. The evening pulled them into a dinner party full of polite conversation and clinking glasses. Fate, or perhaps something less kind, seated Ethan directly across from Claire. Candlelight softened the room and turned every look into a small risk. He worked to draw her into the flow of the table's banter with a practiced ease, catching her eye with little invitations. A joke here, an earnest question there, and each time the world narrowed to the space between them. Under the polite veneer of the meal came a private language of glances and subtle gestures, a story being written in pauses and shared smiles. At one point their legs brushed beneath the table, a tiny, accidental contact that sent a ripple across both of them. It was an echo of the moment at the pool. No words needed to translate the meaning. Claire felt the familiar tug of caution, the whisper that said to leave, to walk away, to protect the lives that might tilt if she stepped over an unseen line. She also felt, with a clarity that surprised her, the stirring of something that had nothing to do with recklessness and everything to do with being acknowledged, desired, and alive. When the guests dwindled and the house settled into that intimate hush reserved for the last people at a party, Ethan asked Claire to join him in the wine cellar. An old, cool sanctuary lined with mahogany racks and bottles that smelled faintly of oak and thyme. It was a place meant for quiet confidences. The light there was soft, the conversation softer still. He asked her, curiously, respectfully, what she found most compelling in a person. She answered with candor, intelligence, wit, the ability to make one feel seen. Her words were careful and honest, a mirror of the adult she was. He listened like someone cataloging small treasures, and when she spoke of connection, not merely physical but soulful, his expression shifted to something both reverent and tentative. They parted the cellar with a new, fragile understanding between them. The rest of the night hummed with the possibilities they'd acknowledged and the consequences they'd left unspoken. Laura was away on business. The house fell into a hush that felt at once dangerously private and impossibly exposing. Claire walked the quiet halls with the weight of choices pressing like a soft hand at her back. It wasn't only attraction that complicated things. It was loyalty, friendship, the consequences carried on everyone around them. Later, in Ethan's room, doors closed, a laptop glow painting the walls. Claire caught sight of photos flickering on the screen, candid moments from the years she'd spent in this social orbit. In the quiet that followed, she noticed Ethan's nervous gestures, the shy way he could no longer pretend their flirtation was merely an idle thing. Whatever impulse had taken hold of him was not cruel. It was earnest, messy, and entirely human. She felt the familiar rush of embarrassment and the fiercer pulse of curiosity. For all the right reasons and all the wrong ones, she knew a line had been traced that night, one neither of them could easily unsee. This is not a story that concludes with a neat moral or a tidy ending. It's a portrait of temptation and restraint, of two adults standing at an intersection where desire and duty collide. Claire and Ethan are both aware of what's at stake, the fragile lattice of trust that holds their friends and families together. But they also feel, unmistakably, that they have been seen in a way that many of us rarely are. Whatever they choose next will ripple outward, changing the quiet lives that brought them together. If this tale leaves you wondering where it goes from here, drop a comment and share your take. How do you weigh longing against the lines that hold us steady? Viewer discretion advised. Characters are adults, and the story is written to explore romantic tension without explicit detail.